this.
I know, I do too. It's kind of weird.
My mom thinks you're really good at it.
Well, as long as I've got Karen on board. All right. Welcome to episode 12 of the Inside MNU Athletics podcast. I'm Sports Information Director Chad Jenkins, joined alongside head baseball coach Ryan Thompson. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Chad.
So this is weird because we've known each other since 1997.
Yeah.
And we've been at each other's weddings. We were roommates and teammates. And now I'm interviewing you, and it just feels strange.
It does.
So let's just get past that and go from there. Let's start with COVID. How did COVID affect you guys last year, and what was that like?
Well, it affected us because we had to end our season abruptly. And if you followed us last year, we were on a hot streak and playing well, and guys were excited about our future with that season. We heard rumblings on Wednesday that other NBA and other sports teams were shutting down, and then I think it was Friday after our last game. We were on a 2-week break. I think we all knew that it was probably over. And it was hard. It was an emotional time. It was I think there was even a grieving process for our players of a season lost. They put a lot of time, a lot of thought, and into it, and it was over, and it was hard. It was a very, very difficult time. I think it took several months for them to work through that.
And you guys were good. Like, you had something going.
Yeah.
What was your conference record at that point?
I think we were 9-2 in conference and 15-6 overall at that point.
With some good wins and some good tight wins, and everybody seemed to be clicking. And then that's when we were up in the press box for that weekend series against Benedictine, that's when stories started to come in like, hey, CMU has canceled their season. This is serious. Yeah. And like, well, how are we going to play a season if we don't have one of our conference teams? And then they canceled March Madness. And it's like, oh, I don't know if this season's going to survive if March Madness doesn't. So it felt like this could be it, but that was crazy.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a devastating moment. And I think, like you mentioned, we were playing well, and those special teams only come together so often, and it had that feeling of this team's playing very well. They're together, and it was exciting to see where we're at. But, yeah. Well,
you got basically the same team back. So, well, we'll get to that later, I guess.
Sure.
How did you come to MNU in the first place?
Oh, well, I didn't know anything about MNU. I had not heard of it as a university before the job came open and it was presented to me. But, Sam Riggleman, who we both played for, had a connection here with one of the vice presidents, and they had an opening for their baseball coach. I was at the Air Force Academy as an assistant coach in Colorado Springs and just felt like I wanted to make a move and was ready to be a head coach if an opportunity presented itself. So I called Sam and my former coach and just told him, if something opens up, let me know, because I'm at a point where I think I'd like to consider that. And I didn't know he was going to call me like 2 weeks later in January and say there's something, but you got to move now. And but he did, and we came here on an interview and loved it, and that was really how I ended up here.
So let's go back to Sam.
Sure.
And how he got you to Bethel in the first place. I was already there. I'd followed my girlfriend there. It wasn't, and she didn't even go. So that's weird. So, like, she was thinking about going there. I'm like, oh, do they have baseball? And I'm like, yeah. All right, I'll go there. And then she didn't go. But whatever. That's what happens sometimes. So I was there. And then my sophomore year was your junior year, and you were at. Go ahead and go through your JUCO experience, and then how you came to Bethel in the first place.
Yeah,
Bethel, Indiana is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I grew up in Southern Illinois and went to a junior college, Olney Central Junior College, and our coach at Bethel had coached at Southern Illinois University, a Division I school, and he was familiar with that junior college circuit and was in need of another pitcher for that year. And so I was still available and looking for a school and just trying to find a good fit for me and what I wanted to do. And so Sam called me, recruited me, went on a visit, really liked him. And having played for him, he's a great coach and a great man. So really felt confident that he was going to help me get better and it was going to be a good situation. And so ended up going to Bethel, and
we had a really good team. As when I was a freshman, we won 40 games and went to the regionals and all that back then, and we lost 3 of our top 4 pitchers. And so, yes, we were in desperate need of an arm, and he brought you in, and then some other guys who were there previously stepped up, and that staff was you. And I was thinking about this the other day. It was Ryan, and Brian. But you don't think about that because we called them all by their last names.
Right.
But anyway, for those of you who don't know, Ryan Thompson could really throw the baseball back in 1998, 99. And, it became our number 1 and All-American. And he was a really, really tough pitcher. And I have personal experience. We might get into that later. I thought it's a pretty interesting
We did have many inter-squad battles.
Yes. I was never on Ryan's team in inter-squad, so I had to face him, twice a week. And it was a nightmare. And I was a decent hitter, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, it was a walk, strikeout, and Chad had 1 big home run. So he has bragging rights.
That's the climax of the story was the big home run, but that was pure luck and after no success. Well, let's get into that story. Why not? So he comes to Bethel. I'm already there. I had played as a freshman. I was going to play as a sophomore. Remember, I had lost a bunch of weight.
Mm-hmm.
I was ready to go my sophomore year, and we had a really good team. Most of the offense was back. We'd scored 6-7 runs a game. We were loaded. And you come in, and the first day of practice, Coach Riggleman thought it was a good idea to have the pitching staff throw batting practice to all the hitters. And so what do you throw batting practice? 60%?
Yeah.
You're just throw strikes, get 50 pitches in or so, let the hitters get some swings.
The idea is the hitter to hit it.
Yeah, let's have the hitter. Let's let the hitters. That's the idea. Let's let the hitters go. Sam didn't want to throw 200 batting practice pitches that day. So now I was the type of hitter where I was 19, 20 years old at the time. I don't remember ever swinging and missing or popping up or foul tipping a batting practice pitch in my life. I wasn't that great, but I wasn't going to swing and miss in batting practice like ever. That was kind of my game. First round against some other pitcher, whatever, I was hanging out line drives like I always do, no big deal. And then the next time I'm up, Ryan Thompson's on the mound, and he's throwing, and everybody else is hitting line drives and doing their thing. I get in there. I'm like, all right, this guy, you're my roommate now. You've been my roommate for a few days. I'm like, all right, I'm going to show this guy I can hit some line drives, even when he's not trying to get me out. It's not anything to brag about. First pitch, 60%. Woof! Swing and miss. I'm like, whoa, that felt weird. I don't remember ever swinging and missing in batting practice before. Let's shake this off, Another pitch. Woof! That's weird. I'm like, do I need to go to the hospital? I don't know what's going on. Third pitch, woof. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Finally, I may have dribbled one out back to the mound, grounded out to second, but nothing. I could not hit the ball against this man. And that was it. I was done with that round. Next round against another pitcher, hanging out line drives again. I wasn't having a stroke or anything. I was fine. But I couldn't touch you. And then, obviously, in inter squads, when you are really cutting it loose and really trying to get people out, that I didn't have a chance at all. It was horrible. What was your experience that first day?
In the batting practice?
Yeah, do you remember that?
I do.
I know we've talked about it. I do
clearly remember you swinging and missing, and I was
like, I thought this guy could
play. I was given
play.
the task of allowing you to hit it and trying to, batting practice, but it was a strange experience. I don't think it was just a bad matchup. We know in baseball there's good and bad matchups, and it was just a bad matchup.
You were a bad matchup for most hitters in the league, as it turned out. But yeah, the one time I did, because I remember the home run I hit off of you, because it's seriously one of the greatest athletic achievements that I've ever had. As a baseball player, I didn't hit a bunch of huge game-winning homers or anything like that. I was a normal player. I wasn't great, but one time I hit a homer off a stud in high school, and I really remember that. That sticks with you. And then after 20, 30 plate appearances against you. I had not sniffed a hit. I had not sniffed contact, I don't think. It was 10 strikeouts, 10 walks, whatever it was. And that day, you remember that day you had broken out the curveball.
Yeah.
You're throwing upper 80s with crazy movement. You're throwing a slider, you're throwing a changeup, and no one can hit you. And I had no chance. And even though you were right-handed and I was left-handed, it should have been a better matchup. No, not at all. So then, that day in the bullpen, what happened in the bullpen that day? Tell me that.
Well, we were throwing a bullpen, and I just mentioned that I could throw a curveball, and I had one, and I hadn't thrown it in a couple years because as a pitcher, sometimes you lose feel for certain pitches. I had totally lost that pitch, but I used to have a good curveball. So I just thought in that bullpen, I told my pitching coach I used to throw one. He said, throw it. I threw it, and it was pretty good. And he walked over and told Coach Riggleman something, and so I went out to warm up for that outing, and Coach had me throw it, and I threw it, and my catcher thought it was pretty good. And I just remember Coach walking up and saying, I want you to throw that a lot today. And so I did.
Yeah,
I
you
threw
did.
it a lot.
Threw it a lot.
It became my signature pitch and probably the one that separated me and helped me have success. But you sell yourself short. It was, even though it might have been 10 walks and 10 strikeouts, everyone went full count. And
yes.
it was a battle every time.
It was still hard to get me out.
Chad was a good hitter. Don't let him.
Well, that shows that's my point, is that I wasn't bad, but he made me look bad.
It was fun.
So that day, I'm sitting here going, all right, I can't hit the fastball. The slider breaks my bat. I can't see the changeup. Now I've got to contend with this 12-6 nasty curveball. And I was 100% sure that pitch was coming at a certain point. Some at-bats in your life, you remember the entire sequence. And I remember the sequence even in an inter-squad game against you because it was so difficult. I know you're like, let's move on. Okay, I know how great I am. Let's go. No. But it was a 1-2 count. I hadn't seen the curveball yet. And I'd seen other people swing over the top of a curveball. It would hit the plate. It would hit the dirt. They would be swinging over the top of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm a guess hitter. I know that 100% there's a curveball coming right here, and I'm going to be ready for it. And a whole paragraph went through my head in the 0.4 seconds that it takes for a pitch to reach the plate. And you threw the pitch, and I thought, it seared into my brain, well, that's not a curveball. That's a high fastball. Don't swing at these. You never hit these. And screw it. And I just pulled my hands super close and just went, whoop. And it rattled into the trees in right field. I couldn't believe it. It was awesome. But seriously, that's my story against Ryan Thompson. That's my greatest athletic achievement. It was like climbing Mount Everest. Like, there's this tough task in front of you. I can't do it. I got no chance. But I got you once. And so I win. That's a great day. That's all there is to it. Who was your biggest influence as an athlete? Like, who did you look up to when you were growing up or that kind of thing?
Well, I thought about this. I liked watching sports. I was a Cardinals fan. I liked
these Cardinal fans around here killing me.
Here I am, a right-handed pitcher, and I probably grew up really liking Ozzie Smith, which makes no sense. It didn't help me athletically at all to like him. But I grew up, playing sports. So I had guys I liked, and we'd watch games or whatever, and but I grew up playing baseball with my friends in my grandma's backyard. That's how I learned sports. And, I think about different athletic influences. I think about even my dad, who didn't play sports, but what I appreciated from him was that sports was not his thing. It probably was, strange. Here he's got a kid who loves sports, but he wasn't overbearing. He let me find my way and let me kind of learn how to play, and it was something I feel like God had gifted me to do and just put it in me. But Cardinals, all those greats in the 80s were probably my big influence. I love Bo Jackson too growing up.
Right.
How could you not? But
of course,
those are some of the guys that.
And I assume I know the answer to this. A lot of these questions I know the answer to because I was there for most of it.
Yeah.
But your biggest influence as a coach?
Yeah, Sam Riggleman's, I'm sure you knew I was going to tell that. But, even Sam was just a huge influence on all of us on those teams, and a great coach, Hall of Famer.
Even the players that he didn't like very much, he had a big influence on.
He's a Hall of Fame coach, and what a privilege it was to play for him, I think that just put me light years ahead as a coach, as a player. When we showed up to the field, we had a confidence that we were playing for the best coach, and that makes a big difference. And Dick Seiler too, a Hall of Fame high school coach, was on that staff.
Like a volunteer assistant.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. There were things he taught me that set me ahead in my coaching career. And he was great. There were some things he thought about that I felt like he was years ahead of other coaches in that. And, I think I've had some good assistants too. Matt Allison comes to mind. Great friends. And he was a great coach. Rob Ramsire was a great coach that really helped me as an early coach here at MNU. That was my staff.
He's now the AD at Friends University.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we had and Matt's a scout for the Tampa Bay Rays. So just some great coaches, but the big influence was Sam. And even this year, it's been a really neat privilege. Sam has zoomed in now that we can all use Zoom, and I don't know why we didn't do that before, but
right.
He zooms in and has done some development with my coaches, myself, and we've asked him different topics, and he's just shared great insights, and we called them Wisdom Wednesdays because that's when we would do it. And so he's still helping me, still makes me better, and just a huge blessing to have in my life.
Yeah, we played with his son at Bethel.
Yeah,
Jeremy was the shortstop for those teams, and so I feel like that's kind of why we got such a great coach, a Division I guy. His son wasn't a Division I player, but he probably wanted to coach his son. So let's find a fit, and I'll coach there. And so we get this superstar coach that comes to Bethel, Indiana. And then we were there for his 500th victory in '99, and he ended up with over 1,000, right?
Oh, yeah.
He went to Spring Arbor, and
so.
he went to Spring Arbor after that. And I mean, he's a legend in the coaching ranks. And I'm sure he'll watch this podcast. And, even me, Coach, it didn't seem like I was listening ever, but I was, and I appreciated the time that I spent as well. How has coaching changed since you started? When would you say you started coaching? Was it as an assistant at Bethel?
Yeah, I got injured, and so I think my senior year, I got injured. Had an arm injury. Career was over. Had some surgeries, didn't work, and I just kind of realized this isn't going to happen. I can't perform at the level I used to, and so Mike Hutchin, who was the head coach at the time, asked me if I would be willing to work with pitchers. So an opportunity presented itself. I jumped in and really enjoyed it. So that was 2001, maybe?
Yeah.
2. You're the years guy. Chad remembers always the years that we did things.
Yes.
I don't. So.
I don't remember my kids' birthdays, but I know what year. It was 2002 that you won the NCCAA National Championship. So was that your second year?
Yeah, I think it was 2001.
So 2001 you would have been on that. And those were some really loaded teams as well.
Yeah.
That was fun to be. I coached in 2003 and 2004 for those teams, but I was around and hanging around.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's when you started. Then you moved to Colorado Springs.
I did.
With Coach Mike Hutchin, who was the head coach at Bethel. He had an opportunity to go to Air Force, so talk about that.
Yeah, he had an opportunity to go to Air Force. At that time, I had the decision to make whether to stay and be interim head coach at Bethel College or go with him as his pitching coach. And, just felt like I was not ready to be a head coach. Wanted that experience at the Division I level just to prepare myself, as I knew I didn't want to stay there forever, but I knew I wanted to go, experience a higher level, try to learn from it. And so that's what I decided to do. And so I went with him and coached there for 3-4 years, I believe, and then came to MNU.
So then you're a head coach. So how has the game evolved since you started? Let's say since that 2004 season when you moved to a pitching coach and whatnot.
Well, I mean, the number one thing that jumps out to me is technology. Right. I mean, we used nothing, and maybe that was better. I don't know. Right. I think the jury's still out, but we use technology a lot more now. I think recruiting has changed a lot. Back then, you could find some guys that weren't getting recruited a lot in smaller communities and towns. Eric Stoltz,
Sure.
guys like that.
He's a big leaguer. For those who don't know, Eric Stoltz eventually played 10 years in the big leagues as a fourth, fifth starter type left-hander.
And I didn't recruit Eric, but that's an example. You can find some guys.
He was on our team at Bethel. That was crazy. And, Justin Masterson, similar, an all-star pitcher for the Indians. He played at Bethel. We coached him.
Yeah. So you could recruiting has changed a lot now. Social media, there's websites, there's every kind of app you can get your name out. It's hard to find those guys. So recruiting's gotten difficult. I think technology, the way the game's changed, it's no longer, I think this is the best. There's technology that can provide you ways as a coach to see if what you're doing is the best way, if this is improving a swing, mechanics, whatever that would be. So I think that's a big change. I think players evolve and change. I think different. You probably could coach a little bit differently now than you did when I first started. But I think ultimately, guys are very similar. They like to compete. Right. They want to be on good teams. If you communicate well, explain why you're doing stuff, they buy in. I hear stuff about, this generation. I don't really buy into that. I think guys are similar. I think they like to compete. They want to be on a good team, have a good experience, and they want to know why they're doing things. I think that's probably how I was too. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I was your assistant for the first couple of years here at MNU, and I think it seems like the difference is then you were a young head coach, and you were very much like Sam Merdelman,
sure.
I think. It was very structured, very disciplined, no facial hair, no long hair, jewelry, no bat
sure.
flipping, all that kind of stuff. And I feel like have you relaxed on that a little bit? How has that gone?
Yeah, I think so. I think you get perspective the longer you do it. I mean, it's not that
I didn't think he was wrong to do that.
I think you find your own personality too.
Right.
We're talking about, I think that's one thing Sam told me when I told him I wanted to get into coaching. He's like, be yourself. Right. I think the longer you coach, the more your personality comes out, and the less you try to be like all the other coaches you played for, because you realize, this is how I need to do it. This is how I communicate. This is how I work. And ultimately, you're after the same thing. You want guys to play hard. You want them to respond well to failure. You want them to compete, but you have different ways of getting there maybe as compared to other coaches. So, yeah, I think I've probably the players who played for me early on, and if they played on this team, would think that I'm a lot different. And,
right.
and I probably am. I think, young coaches, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We don't have that confidence because we haven't done this a long time. And the longer you do it, you have success, you start to relax, you get a better perspective on everything. And I think that's probably in any profession. That's
right.
probably how it works.
How do you get guys to come to MNU? What's your recruiting pitch?
Well, I think we ask a lot of questions. I don't think we have this one just blanket, hey, this is my sales pitch. I think we do a good job. And Coach Punches is running all of our recruiting and doing a phenomenal job on that. But I think, we provide a great experience here, and we just got to highlight that. Here's what we do. Here's the history of our program. Here's how we can help you get better and improve as a player. But we also ask a lot of questions because every recruit's different. He's
right.
got different needs. He's got different things that are important to him. We try to find those, and we don't try to and we just try to honestly share with him how we think we can meet those needs. And that's basically how it goes. But I think the bottom line is when we do exit meetings and I'm asking players, I just want them to leave having a good experience. And that's pretty general, but I think that's really what we want.
Who is the guy that you look at as your favorite coach or manager that it doesn't even necessarily have to be someone you played for, but
sure.
like a pro guy that you look at or whatever?
I don't know. I was thinking about these questions, but I'm not sure that I have like a favorite manager. If I do, I've forgotten, but that's possible. We've been together long enough. You might know the answer to this question.
I know maybe more than you do.
I'm not sure. I do. I will say this. I don't know if I have like one guy, but I love ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association, Coaches Insider. They put out a lot of coaches talks, and different coaches from around the country will put out different talks on different topics, and there's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on. I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm constantly looking at what other coaches are doing, trying to find new ways, new ideas. So I don't know if I have one, but I do just love finding out what good coaches do.
Right. Well, as a Cardinal guy, were you a Tony La Russa guy?
Yeah, I like Tony La Russa.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job. It was fun seeing the, what I appreciate about him is all the matchups and, all the bullpen moves. I thought he did. That was what I remember about him.
What about someone who's not in baseball? Anybody from the other sports that you look at and are like,
Yeah, last year I spent a lot of time just reading football books. I kind of got into football. My oldest son started playing, and so
it's easy to get into football around here.
Yeah, let's see what this is all about. So I read some, the Belichick books, Saban books, and I wouldn't say that those are the two guys, but I just have really enjoyed kind of learning about how football works and coaches do things in that arena, and I like learning about other sports, and coaching's coaching and seeing how they attack it. So, yeah, that was fun.
You've almost won 400 games. That's probably coming up maybe this year with a good year. So, out of those 400, what are the ones that jump out at you right away? As this is, I remember details of that game. That was an awesome comeback. That was a loss that we learned a lot from, something like that. What are your games that you really remember?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. I think the first one, when I took over this program, you're trying to build, you're trying to improve as a program, and I think the first time I felt like, okay, we're there, or we at least had achieved something very significant. We made it to the conference tournament the first time was, I think, 2010. I think we had an okay year, but then made it, not as a program, but for me personally, we made it to the conference tournament. That was a big step. But I think 2012, when we went to Oklahoma City, they were ranked number 1, and we swept them at their place. I thought that was the first big time. Okay, that was a big deal, guys.
Right.
Nice job, and
got a little something going here.
Yeah. That really was a big moment for us. I think we got also ranked that year for the first time. That was significant. I really think the 2014 opening round game versus LSU Shreveport was one of my favorites.
I was there.
They were good, ranked. They were the first. I think they were ranked 11th in the country, and we're playing them, and jump out to a 9-0 lead. Had a delay for 2 hours. They come back. We extend the lead. I think we won 14-10, 14-9, but we just kept answering. They were a good team. We were a good team. That was a fun game because you're in the national tournament for the first time. You're playing somebody you're not familiar with, and okay, how are we going to do? And that team, they were special. They came out with a chip on their shoulder, and they were competitive, and they got after it. And that was a big win. I also think about, you may remember this one, 2015. That year was a little bit more of a struggle. Peru State was really good.
Right.
Let me back up. 2014, I remembered one. That series here against Peru State, where we swept them, and we had a 2-year battle with them back and forth, and those were some fun games. But we swept them here, and I think we may have only led 4 to 5 innings out of 4 games. We were behind in every game, won every game in the end in extra innings, and
the series could have gone either way.
Either way,
sweep one way or the the split them, whatever. It was all close and all tough.
We went on to win the conference that year, and then win the conference tournament and make it to our first national tournament. That was a special year. Then 2015, Peru State kind of got the best of us in that same situation. They beat us 4 games, I believe, and we have to go to the conference tournament, win it. We play them, and they beat us, and then we have to beat Missouri Valley. We have to respond the next day and beat Missouri Valley, and special day. I remember Carlos Vargas. He was our third baseman, 4-hole hitter, and I remember bringing him in the hotel room and say, "You are going to pitch only tomorrow."
Right.
And this is our leading RBI guy. This was a bold move, but it was like, we need you to pitch well. And he throws a complete game. I think we won 4-2, 4-1.
Yeah, it was just a good, solid, tough game.
Yeah, so that put us back in the national tournament again. That was a huge, pivotal game. There's a lot at stake there. 2016 conference tournament. I don't know if you remember that. We lost game 1.
And then went all the way
back through, and had to play like 4 9-inning games in like a 24-hour span. One of them ended like 2 in the morning. We have to play at 8, and then it was crazy. Whatever it was. That was fun. Those 4 games that we played in that short time, and that group, how they rallied, to get us back to the championship game was pretty special.
It felt like that was your national tournament.
Yeah.
Because you kind of expected to go to the national tournament that year and were right on the bubble anyway.
That team set the school record for wins with 42.
And you had that team was loaded and probably could have done something at the national tournament. But yeah, a couple of key losses, and then you lose the first game to Baker, I think, right?
Yeah, it was.
And it was like a 10 seed versus a 1 seed situation, but that's baseball. And then you come all the way back. I put a couple of those games on YouTube. The Grandview game where Jones hit 3 homers.
Yeah,
that's on YouTube. You can go check that out. And then the next night, that was Peru State, and that was the one that was well past midnight.
Yeah,
I had former players texting me saying, "Hey, you're calling this game at midnight. I'm sure we're the only ones listening. Can we feed you some goofy words to say into the broadcast?" And I'm like, "Sure, that sounds like fun." And they're like, "Your first word is pudding." So I had to work the word pudding into the thing, and as I did it, Nelson Santiago hits a home run, and I'm talking about pudding as he's running around the bases. So that was a memorable one for me, as it turns out.
Yeah, I think that should be a staple.
So that's on YouTube too. Go, search that one out.
And I think the last, there's several, but 2017 conference tournament when we
just dominated.
Yeah, but we were not. We were a 5 seed.
Right.
We felt like we had a good team, and it was a struggle. Some years it's baseball, and it's hard to win games, and it can be a struggle. And for whatever reason, we just felt like we had underachieved. And when we got to postseason, it was like we had a blank slate.
Yep.
And not only did we win it, but we won it in convincing fashion every game.
It was crazy.
It was 10 runs in the first 2 innings, and then 7 innings of trying not to blow a big lead is what it was. But that group, that was a lot of fun.
And that year, that was the year Clark was a top 10 team, right? And we beat them twice just easily in the conference tournament. When you get hot like that, just a buzzsaw. That was fun.
And there's a lot of other games, but those are some that just come to mind. And even we had some last year and some great games. And
a couple this year you're going to remember forever already. We'll go through those a little bit later.
Sure.
A game I remember was the Lindenwood victory in like 10 or 11
at
what stadium was that? Where is that? Up in St. Joe.
St. Joe. Yeah, I forgot about that conference tournament. Yeah,
they'd beaten us 19-2 the previous day.
Yeah.
And then we needed to beat them to stay alive, and it was a tough game. And remember, we dropped the ball in right field to keep the game going, but then you came back and got another run. So
we beat Culver that day and then beat Lindenwood, and that was 2011. And I probably should have mentioned that was a great run too to the conference tournament championship game. And there's always good teams. I'm sure I'm forgetting a bunch of them, but a lot of great games.
All right, so you've been here since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
What's your faith background?
Sure.
I was part of that too.
Chad was. Yeah, he was right there involved.
I know the answers to these.
Yeah. Well, in 1997, I became a Christian while I was at Bethel. Through the influence of, Sam. Again, we have a Hall of Fame coach who's a Christian coach and just a great influence on me, but also some really good, solid roommates who were Christians. Early in that semester, came to the realization that I was a sinner and in need of a Savior, and repented of my sins and followed Christ. And that was a great year, fun year, and we could probably talk about that in and of itself for a long time.
That's a separate podcast,
yeah. But that began a journey of following Christ, and here I am, a coach doing very similar to what the coach did that led me to Christ. But now, in 2009, Christy and I joined. We went to other churches, but really joined Masters Community Church, where we are now, and that's been a real game changer for us in our discipleship and growing in the Lord. And so that faith journey began then and continues to today.
Now, you grew up in a Christian home, but kind of, I remember you saying you just never really were into it, even as a child. Just didn't really buy into it. What was that like?
Well, Mom and Dad, took me to church consistently, and that shaped me. But, as a kid, sometimes you rebel from that and just don't want any part of it. And I think that was, I went to church on Sunday and really thought highly of those people in our church, but just kind of went my own way in high school. Just had other things that I thought were important, and but those influences still made a difference. And
Sure.
you look back on them later, and I can still remember growing up seeing my dad read his Bible every morning at the kitchen table. That shapes you as a kid. That is something you remember and don't forget. And but then when I went to Bethel was the first time I think the Lord just opened my eyes to see that it's true and that His Word is true, and I think that's kind of what happened. But
well, your faith journey is part of my faith journey story as well, because I had grown up in a Christian home, didn't rebel, always was doing the right things. But then I think when I saw you become a Christian, I saw the change. I'd only known you for a month or so, so I didn't know how big of a change it may have been. But you were immediately in the Word and searching Revelation and talking about prophecy and disagreeing with Tim LaHaye, who was my dad. My dad wrote the Left Behind series, for anybody of you who don't know. Jerry Jenkins and Tim LaHaye, and you didn't care about the fiction series. You were looking deep into Revelation and going, well, I don't know if that's the right interpretation and all this. Anyway, but it just showed me that this is what a Christian walk is supposed to look like. You're supposed to be digging into the Word and really studying and questioning, and basically it became your whole life. And for me, it was just, that's who I was. It wasn't that big of a deal, and it wasn't really my own faith, I guess is what is a way to put it. It was my parents and my family's, and so that, seeing that, and then of course our roommates Craig and Jeremy and Dave and the other guys, it was all like we all kind of rallied around that, and that year was really interesting and special.
Year.
And we got rid of our TV. Remember that? We weren't watching any TV. And
not that you have to do that, but that's what
right.
we
but that was like, let's not waste our afternoons watching stupid things, and let's get into stuff. So talk about your growing up years. We touched on that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, grew up in Cowden, Illinois, small town, 600 people. Typical. I mean, just a small town community. Great way to grow up. All my extended family so all my mom's family was right there. So I had a lot of cousins in this small little town together growing up, and, playing sports and doing all the things together, and in schools, in class together. And
one older brother,
Eric. And, just a great way to grow up. Small town community.
Your dad passed away. I wasn't even going to talk about this necessarily. When that was,
it's 2010. 2010. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that? That was a sudden thing. I remember. We haven't even talked about this really, but you and I were assistant. You were assistant for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work very well. If you thought back about that very much.
No.
It was. I mean. Eventually, I became full-time SID.
Sure.
The athletics director was like, just forget baseball and everything. But I think we clashed more than we had before. It was just, I don't know. It just didn't work as well as I expected it to anyway. But when your dad passed away, we weren't really that close anymore, it felt like. And then that kind of brought us back together a little bit. I went down to see him see you that day. I was like, maybe we should just, I'm here because of you. Maybe we should be friends again. I don't know. It's not like we had some big falling out or anything. It was just kind of.
You just get busy, I think, sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
But that became real. Yeah. Talk about that week.
Sure.
I guess.
That was, I think he was 62 when he passed away. So relatively young. We had a scrimmage the next day against KCK, getting ready for that, and just got a call from my brother and explained what had happened, and so it was a big shock. Everything stops. Assistants, you got it. And
it was a heart attack. Is that what?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's what we assumed, but just working at my brother's house, and came home and found him, and so it was a real shock. I'll still remember that phone call, and I think I may have called you, one of the next people I called, and said, hey, this is what happened, and we got to go. And so we left and went back and did all that. But it was a tough time and such a shock anytime it's unexpected, for sure.
So, current family, you've got a whole. You basically have a baseball team.
We do. Yeah.
So how'd you meet your wife? Again, a question I know the answer to. I was there.
Yeah, Chad was there. Chad actually was on the first date with
That's
my
right.
wife. Yeah, it was a double date, and Chad was with me. So our lives are quite intertwined here. But I met Christy at Bethel College. She was finishing up her nursing degree. I went back right after I graduated and was coaching, and met her right at the end of that year. And and Chad went out.
I was there. Well, the double date was with Peggy,
sure,
who was dating our friend Danny. So she and I weren't.
No,
it wasn't like we were testing
but
something.
There to help out.
Right, we were just there as a support,
make it less awkward.
And
I guess.
I remember anyway. It's like, where should we go? And I was like, well, girls like Olive Garden, right?
They do.
Not that Olive Garden. Well, I guess Olive Garden is kind of a feminine situation. I don't know if that's PC to say or what, but it's like you don't see 4 bros going to Olive Garden, So I was like, let's go to Olive Garden, see if she likes that. And it turned out that was her favorite restaurant, if I remember. So I nailed that one. So you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome for that.
Yeah, that's why I asked you to go.
Right. We'll get this going. And then, go from there. Because after that, I wasn't part of your relationship at all. You guys, I think, what year was that? I went to Colorado.
It was 2003-ish time frame, yeah.
Right. And you guys, I was out of town when you guys were dating and whatnot, so it was like I wasn't part of that at all. So I don't know that story. What was the next part of that relationship?
Dated and, we dated. I think I coached at Bethel for another year, and I think we got married pretty shortly after. It wasn't like a long engagement or anything like that. I can't remember the whole time frame. Maybe Christy could come in and we could go through that, but
right.
Don't have that timeline nailed down necessarily. But we got married in August and then moved to Colorado, I think, to take the Air Force job in September, October time frame. So it was a real whirlwind that whole year of getting married, moving, buying a home, all that kind of stuff, changing jobs. And so I think that's the 3 most stressful things you can do, and is getting married, changing jobs, and relocating or something. And we did all 3 of them, like, boom, right there together. But it was a great opportunity. It was fun for us. We were excited to go away, newly married, and kind of the 2 of us on an adventure. So that was a lot of fun to do that, the 2 of us. So we were kind of by ourselves, like you mentioned. We weren't around friends or support or family or anything. And we just kind of grew together as a couple.
So now you've got we don't have that much time left, so we can't go through all of your kids. go ahead and go through. Your kids.
I got 6 kids. I got Ty. Is my oldest. He's 15, and I got Cade, who's 13. Bo, who is 11. Bailey 9, Cameron's 7, and Taylor is 6. So I go 3 boys and then 3 girls.
That's the way to go.
Yeah, in order.
And any of them baseball guys?
Well, they not
or softball
really,
girls.
Not
even?
really. Ty just started playing baseball again. He's played football. Cade likes basketball. Bo likes animals. Catching reptiles is his pastime. He can love snakes, all that kind of stuff. Girls have played soccer a little bit. They're doing some ballet stuff. But, with sports, we don't push it too hard. Dad's a coach. I don't want them to ever feel like they have to do it, but we're there to support them. But just like my dad allowed sport, I was wired different than him, and he let me do my thing, and we're very similar with our kids. So,
I assume this is the answer to your next question, but what do you do outside of MNU?
Nothing. I have no hobbies, no time. No. Church
just
and
family.
Kids activities, that's what we do. It's pretty simple.
You look for shoes.
That's right.
What you do.
Yes, that is true.
All right, let's go through this season's games so far, even though it's only been, 7 games.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about there. And then you got basically your whole team back from last year, plus some key additions. So let's start with who you added from last year.
Well,
not all 20 of them or whatever, but
some key additions. I think offensively we added Dante Freeman, transferred here from St. Mary, had a successful career there, transferred to us this year, and That's a key addition in the outfield. Adam Relihan transferred here from Bradley University, a local kid who transferred back. He's going to be corner infielder for us, left-handed bat. We have Jacob Jenkins, who played 2 years at MNU, transferred to Western Kentucky, a Division I, is now transferred back. So he's
like 26 now?
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he is coming off a labrum surgery, but is healthy and is able to DH for us.
Well, he was an all-decade player for us.
He was.
I mean, according to me anyway, I made the thing.
Yeah.
But what was he, 17, 18 he played here? Or 18, 19 even?
He was 17 and 18.
But one of those years was good enough to be all-decade, so it's nice to have him back now as a 30-year-old senior, I guess. But I don't know what he is.
And Josh Torrance, another addition. Offensively, some good players there. And we had a good offense. We've added some real key guys to it. On the mound, Luis Villanueva is going to be a key addition. We got a lot of returners on the mound. Tommy Castro will be with us this year as well. We get Eric Navarrete, a freshman, who's gonna pitch for us. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but those are some key additions to a team that we felt like was good last year, and we think we've added some really good pieces. And with that comes, we got great depth. And so with great depth, it means some guys are going to maybe have to take a little bit of a different role for the good of the team. And so far, guys have been ready to do that.
Well, I've seen a couple times you brought in, like, for example, Jackson Burke didn't play in the first 2 games or whatever. He gets a start in game 3 and goes 4 for 4 with a homer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, that's nice to have off the bench or as a spot starter or whatever it is. And then Will Morris, a similar situation, a few hits and a bunch of steals and runs and all this. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can go, what is that, 12, 13 deep offensively, that's pretty rare. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
The season so far, you started at Wayland Baptist, where the wind was howling out.
Mm-hmm.
Go through that 4-game series.
Well, it wasn't howling out day one. At Wayland, Plainview, Texas it's at elevation. I don't think a lot of people know that, but it's already at elevation. So it's already a very offensive place. So we know we're going to go down there and get into an offensive battle. We know the guys love to hit there. But day one, 2 good games, I think 2 one-run games.
Mm-hmm.
We were down to the final pitch in game 1 and gave up a 3-run homer to lose. And they're a good team. They're right there behind us in the rankings by a couple spots. So we're on the road playing a good team in an offensive environment. We split day 1, come back day 2, and we walk out of the hotel. And we knew there was going to be a wind advisory. And it is, tumbleweeds are literally rolling across the road, and I walked out with a cup of coffee with no lid, and it blew the coffee out the top of my cup. So we knew. Now, as any baseball coach, you want to know this could be where it's going to be hard to score if it's blown in.
Right.
It could be we may not get an out if it's blown out, and it was blown out to dead center, the worst place.
Right.
So you have nowhere to hide. And we knew we were going to have to score. We knew pitchers were going to have to compete and battle through a very offensive environment. We won game 1 28-10.
And you were never comfortable.
Comfortable.
Even though you were up 28 to 4.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure fans were like, this is out of hand. Coaches never feel that way. We always know we're a big inning away from trying to answer how we blew a 28-10 lead, but it never felt comfortable. They have a good offense, so we had to keep scoring. We knew we had to score 20 to win, and
such a crazy place to be.
It's what you have to do, and our guys knew it. There was the challenge, and our pitchers had to just battle. We had some big spots in that game. Kyle Weiler pitched out of some jams. Eric Navarrete came in a big situation and struck out their best hitter in a big spot. So we had some moments where that could have been 28-20, and we're there for even longer. But game 2, we got behind. We got up behind. I don't know how that all went. But anyway,
wasn't that the 14-run inning that they had?
14 runs in the second.
Before an out was recorded, there was 11 or 12 runs. It was a nightmare.
It's hard to explain. And anyway, we gave up, but our guys continued to compete. I was really impressed with the competitiveness of our team. And they were there to the end. They scored late. Wayland came back and won that in the bottom inning. I think it was 24-23.
Yeah, you guys led.
We're looking for a new kicker. We got to improve things there. But
special teams.
Yeah.
There was a play at the end of game 2 that impressed me where they hit that little line drive back to Vargas, and it seemed like the game was over.
Mm-hmm.
And he caught it and pumped his arms, and the ball pops out.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And the umpires were like, nobody made any call, and then eventually called him safe. Now, I'm going to tell one story to get to another,
okay.
But you came out and talked to the umpires. They talked to each other for a very long time, I thought. It was like, is this a catch or not? Let's go. And it was like a couple minutes, and they decided, no, it's a drop, and the game continues. Now the winning run is on second or something like that. And Vargas collects himself after thinking the game has been over, a complete game victory.
You let down. Yeah.
A complete game victory. He's released that tension, and now he's got to get back in it, and he gets the next guy out, which I thought was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Kudos to John
Huge.
Vargas. But I wanted to talk about your relationship with umpires, because I have been very inundated with baseball for 30 years or whatever it is. And I've seen thousands of games at every level, and I've never seen a coach or an umpire change a call from the umpire. They go out and they throw their hat, they stomp and spit and scream, but nothing ever changes. You're like, why are you out there? He's not going to change his mind. Well, the only person that I've seen ever change an umpire's mind is you, and you've done it like 10 times in your career. It's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. What is your strategy when talking to umpires, and how do you get them to just change? It's like, you know what, he was right. Okay, out, and we win the game or whatever. And it's like, what happened? But you've done it so many times. How do you do that?
I just ask really nicely.
You're a wizard, I think.
No, I think you just build, and I don't know. I mean, I just ask them, this is what I saw, what'd you see? I think you just treat them with respect. They're human beings,
right.
And I think sometimes we forget about that, or as if they're out there trying to purposely harm us or make calls that impact the game. I mean, I make mistakes too in games, and I recognize that. And if I argue a call and I'm wrong, I go tell them. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I was wrong. You got it right. Good job. And so, and I think, then when there are those controversial calls that come up, I just ask them, hey, what'd you see? And can you take a look at that? Here's what I think happened. And I just try to stay calm and not emotional, and just let's just work it out and get the right call. If that's for us, great. If it's against us, so be it. We're going to deal with it either way, but can you get some help? Can you look at it? And either way, I'm going to be fine with it, because ultimately it's outside of my control.
And that's the thing. There's no instant replay for them to go look at a monitor. But usually it's, I see you go up to the home plate umpire and you're like, hey, I think you got that wrong. Can you at least go ask your buddy what he saw? And that seems to be how it works. They go come together, and then it's like, yeah, he saw the same thing Coach saw. He's respectful to me. I'm going to give him this one, But I've never, literally not once from another coach has had the umpire's mind change, but you've done it multiple times. I always think that's fun. All right. Last question. This will be fun. I've been asking all the coaches about how they're dealing with the current social climate, which is our country's super divided. Black Lives Matter protests, police brutality issues. What has that been like for your team? Has there been any discussions? Have there been any instances or anything like that? How has your team dealt with because you've got a team that's full of, you got Dominicans, you've got Puerto Ricans, you've got Americans, you've got all different shades of skin color and different backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. You got how many players? 35 or whatever it is. They're all different. How's that been going?
Yeah, it's been going great. We really had no issues. I think we're always open to having those conversations. We haven't necessarily. I think part of it is when you're coaching a sports team, you're so busy. I mean, it's hard to let's sit down or it's. I mean, those may develop, and we may have opportunities for those more as the season develops. But it's been great. I mean, we've just had a great group. They seem to really enjoy each other, and we talk about a lot on our team about making the guy next to you better, and we want to play for the glory of God and the good of the guy next to us is what we talk about, and so we come at it from that angle, and everybody seems to be at this point really connected and doing well. And we've really had a great fall and spring, even though we've had to deal with COVID. It's been fun, and when we get out there and play, it's kind of just a release, and it's almost like we're just playing baseball.
So if you are in charge of the country for a day, yeah,
oh boy, here we go.
But you have experience with bringing all sorts of different people together for a common goal, and all of the coaches have pretty much said the same thing, that it's if you can get people, I don't know, pulling on the same rope or aiming towards the same goal. Is that all it takes for the country? How are you solving? How is Ryan Thompson solving our country's problems?
I don't know how I'm solving our country's problems. I mean, that's again another.
But that's the thing. Is it a micro level works on macro?
Sure. I think what we do at the athletic level and the team building level is we get one common mission,
right?
And that mission is to master our craft, to improve, to pursue a championship, and we talk about no regrets at the bottom of a dog pile. And so we got this end in mind, and it's worth it to make these sacrifices, these things for the good of all of us. And that means I have to take my skills and ability and present them to the team, and I'm helping you get better. And when you do better, you help me get better. And that's the whole team concept, and that's what we try to do. And I'm sure that's what most coaches are trying to accomplish. But solving the world's problems is a whole nother level, but that's what we do, and that's how we build teams and teamwork.
All right. Well, we're at about an hour. Let's call it good.
Okay. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you. And that's episode 12 of Inside MNU Athletics.